This program is about how government programs are financing voter fraud and acts of terrorism in America, otherwise known as the Introduction to the Matrix of Frauds. Hillary for Prison is a current campaign that is ongoing in many major cities in the country as a direct result of the House hearings that Hillary lied under oath in the hearings, and then Director of the FBI Comey came in later under oath and said Hillary was lying, proving to the public of the United States of America that Hillary is a liar, a fraud, and should be in prison. If any one of us, you or I, anyone listening to this, did the same things that she has done, she would be in prison. That much is obvious. Not long ago, our illustrious president, Barack Hussein Obama, who, by the way, when he was running for president, told the nation that he was a Christian, and not long later disavowed that claim, even though we have it all on many, many different forms of videotape. This particular speech was given as a State of the Union address, and as it says right there, quote, end quote, "We are no longer a Christian nation." This man is a liar, a thief, a fraud, and we intend to prove before we're done with our efforts that his birth certificate is in fact a forgery, a fake, a fraud, and he can and he will not produce a certified, I repeat, certified copy of a birth certificate, because one simply does not exist. He cannot because he will not because he cannot. Simple as that. Here's a speech given by the person in the UK that was forced to step down because as prime minister, because he was against the idea of the vote Brexit to remove themselves from the European Union. He lost, he stepped down. This is very important part of this presentation, because what he's talking about is in fact part and parcel to the Muslim agenda that's going on under the Barack Obama administration in the United States of America. It's all part of their plan to take over as the ruling class of the world and enslave the rest of us. And if you guys think you need to put your tinfoil hats on at this point because of government conspiracies, put them on, folks, because you're about to be enlightened. We, the people of the United States of America, must educate as many good citizens as possible. There are some of us left, contrary to what you might believe. This article on top goes into the situation that we're currently faced with in the election between Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump for president. This article explains that just in this one article, which was taken from an investigation done by the United States Census Bureau itself, that there were 141 counties in the United States where there are in fact more registered voters than there are breathing men, women, and children alive in those counties. There are more registered voters than there are people. The next line is an organization called In the Public Interest. This is a legal organization that wants us to believe that they have the best interest of this country in mind when it comes to voting fraud. When you go to this particular website, what you will read is in fact that they are in bed with the ACLU and doing everything in their power they can to prevent voter fraud from being exposed in this country. Very much the same kind of thing that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have been doing to this country for the last 8 years, and before that, when Bill Clinton himself was elected president. We must then be prepared to take decisive action. A brief explanation of how to beat the welfare system and finance voter fraud is what we're about to discuss. A completely self-perpetuating system, an incredible business model, which is really just a scam. One of the biggest keys to control is controlling as many addresses as you possibly can by renting or selling houses to people that are involved in the same scam. So it is about controlling addresses, because you cannot be paid for fraud unless there is an address for you to send for them to send the check to, or in this case, the credit card, which is known as an EBT. For those of you that are not familiar, electronic balance transfer is how welfare, food stamps, and all of the USDA entitlements are paid to the individuals. These crimes and scams are also being done from fake addresses, which we will demonstrate. It starts with one person filing for benefits with 5 family members to fill in the online application. Remember, all of this is done by way of the internet. Then those 5 people do the same thing, thus setting up why we refer to it as a matrix. In other words, this has become a multi-level marketing scam done by hundreds and thousands and millions of people in this country as a get-rich-quick scheme, and anyone can calculate the money involved. If you consider that what we know based on what's published in national magazines and newspapers, the average illegal alien is now being given an exemption, and they actually get a credit for additional money from the welfare scam. So they're able to make $5,200 a month. So you figure that out, times 5, times 5 more, times 5 more, it turns into big money fast. This is why our federal budget is as big as it is. And as it stands today, 2/3 of every dollar spent in our federal budget is spent for entitlement welfare programs, and that does not include Social Security. I also bring up at this point that the HARP refinance program is also being used to the tune of billions of dollars. The documented evidence that I have finds the same groups of criminals receiving various benefits in many states at the same time, and also voting in these states by absentee ballot. Some of these families have hundreds of votes. Think about that. The law states that every legal vote has to be counted by law. So here they are using our own legal system against us in order to stuff the ballot box and guarantee who they want to have elected. Here's how it works. They digitally modify and forge an original birth certificate by way of a computer. You simply scan it, Photoshop it, modify it to say what it is you want it to say. Go get a new Social Security number at the Social Security Department online, pay $29 for it, get it back the next day. Take those 2 documents to your local motor vehicle division department in any state. Fill out the form necessary to get a license, again, in order to be legal in that state to drive, and at the same time register to vote in that name. Then, once you have that, you have a new fake identity that makes that particular identity illegal. Now you qualify for the online application for federal assistance programs. USDA includes cash assistance, food stamps, rental assistance, health insurance, elderly care, child care, WIC, etc. There are more. Address searches and address searches of previous addresses listed shows the same scam at every address when you run a background check on the person you're looking at. The phone numbers listed don't even go to the person listed. This is more evidence of fraud. But that is the way that they verify the application. That is the best way they know to get rich, and the numbers of people involved in each account is proof of the conspiracy to commit all of the crimes involved. The RICO Act applies. Follow the money, folks. Final notes, computer tampering laws apply. This is a note for the law enforcement community. Be sure to confiscate and examine all telephones and any other equipment that can be legally determined to be a computer piece of hardware. The matrix scheme is then completed when they collect life insurance because they staged the event faking a phony death certificate. Then they start all over again in a new identity. Folks, these people are getting rich with this. Here's where it winds up. Our corrupt government is as bad as it is because of the massive independent vote. This is how Bill Clinton was elected. This is how Barack Obama was elected twice. This is how Hillary Clinton will also be elected. The fraud in this country, because of the free money programs that are designed to make all of these people wealthy, including them, by the way, is the final part of the plan that keeps all of this money flowing. Currently, we're trying to get Donald Trump elected because we all know that he knows the system is rigged and therefore will eliminate the corruption in our government. Hillary will maintain the status quo, and now they're even talking about giving us free college tuition. And I will quote Bernie Sanders: "It is cheaper to give these people free college than it is to put them in prison." That quote was adopted to the Democratic Party National Convention last week because it is a true fact. So what really counts? Only the general election. In recent reports, there are actually more people registered to vote than are eligible to vote in counties across the nation. These reports are taken from census reports. There are currently more independent voters in this country than either the Democratic or the Republican Party. 42% of the total registration is currently independent vote. There is massive fraud in the Republican Party. We call them now Obama Republicans. There is massive fraud in the Democratic Socialist Party. Name socialist mean anything to you at this point? Free money, socialism, doesn't work. The independent vote currently is counted at 42 or 3% of the total, and the amount of independent vote is massive. What elected Obama will elect Hillary because of the absentee ballot. Remember that. Voter fraud is done by mail-in ballot. Now what we're going to look at is very disturbing stuff, folks. But before I'm done, I will make true patriots very angry. And some people don't want to know the truth. The rest of you that are listening to this are the ones that are beating the system out of millions of dollars every year. And our efforts are going to put you all behind bars. And maybe eventually, according to what Donald Trump wants to do, find you a job or put you in the military so that you can actually do something besides sit at home and come up with more schemes and nasty scams to blow this country to pieces. Here's where it starts. This is an actual copy downloaded from the whitehouse.gov website. It is, in fact, Barack Obama's phony birth certificate. It says right on it what his birth date was, where he was supposed to have been born. If you'll notice right here, There is no circular certification stamp on this birth certificate. If you will pull yours out and look at it, similar to a notary stamp, you will find there's a circular raised stamp on a certified birth certificate. They didn't even make an attempt to do this. You see what they did? They had a doctor sign it on this date in 2011. The reason is because Sheriff Joe Arpaio asked him to prove it was real. Important point here. For those of you that understand now what the ridiculous nature of the LGBT and you can't keep me out of the women's bathroom lame story going on, he would like us to believe that his mother's name was actually Stanley. Any of you believe that? I got a tinfoil hat for you. As I said, once you have a fake birth certificate, you simply go to the Social Security Administration, and it tells you right there what they want you to believe are the reasons why it's okay to open a new Social Security account. Most people are not aware of this because you don't think like crooks. The rest of you that have already done it know how easy it is. Start a new job, open a bank account, apply for government benefits, replace a stolen, lost, or damaged card, name change due to marriage, name change due to divorce, birth of a child, change of immigration status. In other words, the only reason they issue a card is because you are expected to use that Social Security number when you get a job, and they take Social Security out of it. FICA income is taxed, and the state gets a cut, so does the federal government. The problem with all of that is when you do this, that Social Security card has never been used, so there's no income ever been reported to it, so it automatically qualifies you for USDA Entitlement Programs, all of the above, just like that. They don't care. They actually encourage you to do it because of what we're about to talk about. Here is a copy of a birth certificate from the state of Arizona, and as you can see, I have plugged in some copy that is similar to what the state printer uses at the Department of Vital Records, and you simply copy the color, you copy the font, and all you have to do is you go in and erase the name. You go in and erase the date. You can erase whatever you want, leave whatever you want. It says who the mom and dad is, etc., etc. And you just simply finish it, make a copy of it. It looks like it's got a raised stamp on it, so the people at the Motor Vehicle Division that don't give a damn will issue you a driver's license. That simple. Here's an example of a guy that's using his father's name to vote when his father is in fact dead. This guy used to be my little league coach. Knew him all my life. Important note here. The apartment shown here is actually not apartment 136. It is apartment 13G, but the post office will deliver it to 13G because it's similar, and that's the nature of fraud when it shows up in the public record. This is here because this was an intentional fraud done by this individual to eliminate a lot of other problems probably associated with his previous identity. The point is he's now voting in this name in addition to his real name. That's fraud. What I just showed you from a fake birth certificate is how he did this. He used his father's birth certificate and changed the date on it to assume his identity. Forgery. providing false evidence to state agencies. If he gets stopped, it's providing false evidence to the cops. RICO laws apply because he's got people involved in his family. I can go on and on and on and on and on.
Sorry. Here. I just wanted to give you this.
Okay, I don't know if I can stop it. Did it stop? Yeah. I'm sorry, son.
I apologize. My bad. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you were here.
My bad. Just got it done.
You were first. Okay. 15 days. Wow. That's a long time.
To get the license? Is that how long it's going to take?
It shouldn't take that long. Charles, there's $12 now. Okay. Okay.
Cool. Got
All right,
that.
we'll put that in the glove box with the rest of your paperwork.
Okay.
Are you ready to go?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. All right. Sneak in everywhere. This fucking sneak in. Here's the deal with the Department of Economic Security in Arizona. Every state has one. Some states is done in the county by county basis depending on population. Health insurance, Medicare costs, nutrition assistance, cash assistance, tuberculosis control. And it tells you right on this what information you're going to need to fill out the application. Birth dates, social security numbers, etc., etc., etc. In other words, all you have to do is fill in the application online to make it look like the application wants it to look, and submit the application, and 45 days later you start receiving money, free money from the government. What else can you do with a false identity? You can open a bank account, you can avoid paying taxes, apply for credit, buy a house as a first-time buyer, buy life insurance. Once you've attained the age of 66, you can now apply for Medicare, Medicaid benefits. If you're a young person, you can get a fake ID and get the benefits of being 21. And of course, cast a fraudulent vote in that name. You guys beginning to get angry yet? We're 23 minutes into this presentation and I'm not close to done. The ugly truth, folks. Brace yourself. I like this guy because was one of my childhood heroes. He calls them like I sees them. Without exception, every time I see a terrorist act that's reported by the news, I run those people through my background check system, and you can clearly see here all these people have done. These are the terrorists involved with the Boston massacre bombing. The Tsarnaev family becomes the Tsarnaeva family, becomes the Sarny family, etc., etc., etc. One of these guys is doing life in prison. The other one was killed on the scene. I repeat, without exception, I have run these criminals of every terrorist act that's taken place in this country for the last 3 years through a background check system, and without exception, I have found them involved in every level of the matrix of frauds, without exception. So our welfare programs are now financing terrorist acts in this country. How to make you all real happy. Here's a result of the background search that I do, provided by the People Search background check system. I won't go into this in detail because you can go back and look at this by starting and stopping your videotape. But it shows you right on it. They People Smart system has a way of connecting the dots and locating the alias names of the people that are associated with this address. This is in fact the building of the Tsarnaev family, and all of these people are also in the same building. My point here is to show you this individual right here would like us to believe that his real name is Lugumamu Innocent. Who knows what his real name is? He simply used a fake birth certificate to go get a driver's license, and this shows up all of his alias identities. Does anyone expect you to believe these are the names of real, honest American working class citizens? How ludicrous can graphic art get? Pretty bad, folks. Here they are, the Tsarnaev family, and you can see Zubidat became Tsarnaeva, and then Alvi, etc., etc., etc. Greed shows up a lot because people don't want to share with anybody else. This lady, Catherine Russell, now shows up in an address in McNeil, Arizona. Those people split the money at the other address 50-50, so everybody in the matrix is making money. Remember the book Hillary Clinton wrote, It Takes a Village? There is a terrorist cell right there in Cambridge, Massachusetts, folks. That is a terrorist cell. Once again, I'm going to point out the fact that the Obamas and the Clintons and the Bernie Sanders of the world have made this one great, big, laughable socialist joke. The joke's on us, folks. We're going broke. Here's some more on the Tsarnaev family. Again, add a letter, drop a letter, change your name. Get this point clearly. On every application, whether it's motor vehicle division or welfare, the application cannot look the same as any previous application in the computer database system, or it will kick it out. But you can add one letter, you can add junior, you can add senior. Some women add juniors and seniors. You can add 3 as a letter if you want to make a big joke out of it. All true, as long as it doesn't look the same as the last one. Here's Kathleen Russell now. And this is the address where they want us to believe Catherine Russell moved to. Take a look. See all the junk cars laying around? I did a post office box search on this family. Found a whole lot of people in it. While I was doing it, I accidentally found a P.O. box in McNeil, Arizona. Most of you probably don't even know it exists. That's the kind of town it is. Nothing much more there than a post office. One box had literally 500 different names in it. That is voter fraud. That is how Hillary will get elected. This is what I just said. Once again, the use of controlled addresses over a long period of time is the vital key to the matrix of frauds, because the EBT card system does not automatically renew. You have to put it in for it again every 3 years. It expires at the end of every 3 years. So controlling the address is critical to finding the fraud. Shared addresses is the point of this. Members of each gang appear at each other's home addresses. For this reason, the address search becomes the key element in the investigation. And this is the end result, folks. See this guy? He wants us to believe. This was a Facebook post, by the way. He shows 2 names. Jesus Castro Alameda is one. Antonio Romas Lopez. My contention is this is actually a Muslim man that came into this country and assumed the multiple identities of Mexican people. They're actually selling these as kits at the southern border in this country and teaching people how to become American citizens with legal status illegally. This is what Trump wants to stop. This is one of the means we go about finding who these people are. It says right here in this post, welfare is not intended to be a career choice. What are they doing here? Laughing at us about the joke. These guys are scammers. They're also screwing our federal health insurance programs out of big dollars. Once again, all part of the joke. I guess in that particular case, it might help to have a crooked doctor involved, you think? This is another part of the joke. Pay attention to where I found it. Electronic harassment and gang stalking. Hillary Clinton was recently interviewed, and she made it clear to the children of an elementary school. Well, kids, being in a gang is sort of like having a family. We all take care of each other. This is a discussion about invisible shadow government. In other words, our organized crime is operating behind the scenes, and they are actually the ones that are running our government. They are, in fact, organized crime. We all know it now. Here's another simple web search on the 2 words, targeted individual. See what it shows up? 4,500,000 pages of results on the subject. Does the name Lois Lerner mean anything to you guys? Do yourself a favor. Google that on your own time and study what you find. You will not be happy with any of the results. It's all about government conspiracies, some of which are true, some of which are designed to cover up for the truth, most of which you'll find there are people pretending to be the victims, when in fact they are the criminals that are taking advantage of the government programs. Here's a post, Neighborhood Watch via electronic harassment and mind control. Subject I know a little bit about. Global anti-Trump coverage proves the Matrix is real. Again, they're laughing at us. Another post, NSA whistleblower comes out of the shadows into the light. She tried to make an effort to expose what was going on, and her life was threatened, and she went underground. She's scared for her life. What's the motive? The free money behind the fraud. This is one method that we use how to report. Joe Arpaio and the constitutional sheriff posse in this country will inform you, if you look them up, look up Richard Mack, constitutional sheriff. They have an organization that is trying to train every sheriff in this country how to be a constitutional sheriff, because they are, in fact, by law, the last bastion of hope for you protecting your civil rights. Look it up. It says right in here, not limited to computer tampering, identity theft, digital media, etc., etc. Every sheriff in the country has a similar website. So what can we the people do, and who can we trust? The simple answer to this question is only ourselves and the civil courts. We have power in large numbers, and the factual evidence can be produced by court order. The reason I bring this up is because our law enforcement communities have been corrupted by the free money of the matrix of fraud, and anytime you file a report with most of them, you will get nothing but a runaround. They tell you they didn't find anything. They're unwilling to act, and in many cases, they'll actually put the pressure on you to shut up. It's what they've done to me. So, where's the factual evidence? Let's look at that. Fake identities, controlled addresses. If that isn't enough, fake addresses comes into play. And here's how that works. I'll give you an example so you know what to look for if you decide to do some of this effort yourself. Find the person, Go to their address list, look carefully at their address list. If there are various versions of the same address, like they add a northwest to a north, or east instead of a west, or north instead of an east, or add a letter to it, or add another number, those are called fake addresses. And you can run those fake addresses through the address search in the program, and you will find those fake addresses also on the public record in the public databases that those companies get their reports from. That is absolutely a bulletproof means of establishing the fraud, because an attorney and a judge will tell you the same thing. There is no reason for a fake address to show up anywhere in the government databases unless it's for purposes of fraud. Now, when you figure that out, you'll realize that when you filled out an application and you put 5 names on it, all of those names are guilty of the crime. This is how we put pressure on the criminals, because it goes to serious violations. Here's the law on racketeering, otherwise known as RICO law: forgery, theft, participating in a syndicate, obstruction of an investigation, asserting claims, any scheme to defraud. RICO laws apply, folks. 25-year minimum mandatory sentences. We can and will get these people to turn state's evidence when they realize they're looking at 25 to life. We're trying to inform and educate as many of you as we possibly can, which is the purpose for this presentation. The matrix and frauds involves a very large segment of people that all know each other, are involved in the crimes by the very nature of the matrix. It will only take one of these families of criminals to be investigated, charged, and prosecuted, and they will turn state's evidence, and there we have the plan. Get that done, which is what we intend to do. Take that to the Trump Tower in New York City, give him the preponderance of evidence, make the case known so that he can use that information, make it public, which he's good at doing, and defeat Hillary Clinton by putting her in jail for the same violations. So do report to your local sheriff. Do report the criminals to your local Department of Revenue. When no civil action is taken, make sure you have obtained physical copies of everything that you did, because we will be prepared at some point to file civil action for professional negligence in court and sue those law enforcement agencies for criminal negligence. Here's the nature of the background check system. You can run the people by name, phone numbers that you have, emails if you have them. The address is the key element in the fraud search, so pay specific attention to the address. You'll find out if they have any current tickets, if they have any court hearings or anything that they've recently been involved in. You'll find birth certificates, death certificate dates. A lot of what you find in Vital comes from obituaries. This is how they get paid for life insurance fraud, folks, and that shows up in the record. Work history very rarely shows up, because most people, there are not many applications where you fill out that. And of course, you can run information on yourself. It says right here on it who they are. Cost me $19.95 a month to do this for the people of the United States of America. I don't get paid for this, folks, but I'm not happy. I do have a particular family in mind, and the phrase yalla, yalla, yalla is very familiar to me. It should be to you. Anybody have any commentary on that with each other watching? Here's some of the reasons: forgery, credit card fraud, extortion, tampering with witnesses, providing false evidence, felony perjury, home invasions, threats of bodily harm, stalking, welfare fraud, voter fraud, computer tampering. Those are all things that I have documented evidence and I can prove, but the police will do nothing about it, so I have to do it in civil court, and so will Trump. Question mark at this point. Can any of these criminals produce a certified copy of a birth certificate in any of these alias names? Absolutely not. Can any of these criminals produce evidence of why their fake addresses appear in the public records without incriminating themselves? Absolutely not. Are there any attorneys out there that can answer this question? Mine says, no way in hell. Absolutely yes. We can prove it in civil court. Here's the Arizona Department of Economic Security fraud reporting system. The most corrupted fraud reporting system I've ever seen in my life. They actually ask you to provide them with social security numbers of people that you would have absolutely no way of knowing that unless you violated their civil rights. This is proof of the corruption of our government. It is designed not to allow you to properly report the fraud. So it's time for question and answers. The floor is open for questions. You may contact me on Facebook for any additional information that you want. It's right there under my post. Thank you very much.